I'm a 28-year-old woman, and I've just come out of a 5-year relationship with my now ex-fiancé, Matt, who's 30. I've got a lot to unpack here, but it all started with this feeling I couldn't shake off for years, that I was never truly Matt's first choice. It's a tough pill to swallow, especially when you've invested so much time and love into a relationship, hoping it would all be worth it. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. Let me backtrack a bit. Matt and I started dating 5 years ago. We met at a mutual friend's party, and he was everything I thought I wanted. He was funny, attentive, and made me feel like I was the center of his universe, at least in the beginning. But as the relationship grew, so did the shadow of someone I had never met but felt like I knew all too well, his ex, Rebecca. Rebecca was Matt's college sweetheart. They dated for 4 years before she moved abroad for her career. From what I heard, their breakup wasn't because they fell out of love. It was just bad timing. I didn't think much of it at first. We all have past relationships, right? But Matt wasn't just holding on to memories, he was holding on to her. In the early days, it was subtle. Matt would drop little comments like, "Oh, you'd love this Thai place, it was Rebecca's favorite," or "Rebecca and I used to hike this trail all the time." It was weird, sure, but I brushed it off. He was with me now, and I didn't want to come off as insecure. But these comments kept coming like an uninvited guest at every date, every dinner, every moment we shared.
A year into our relationship, things got serious. We moved in together, and that's when I started noticing more. Matt kept old photos of him and Rebecca, not just in a dusty box but in a folder on his phone that he looked at occasionally. I found a playlist on his Spotify titled Rebecca's Songs. Again, I tried to rationalize it. They had a history, and it's normal to remember your past, right? But something felt off, like I was sharing my relationship with a ghost I couldn't compete with.
Fast forward to year 4. Matt proposed to me during a weekend getaway. It was a beautiful moment, and I said yes because I loved him. I thought this was the turning point. He chose me, and I believed it meant he was ready to leave the past behind. But I was wrong. That's when the wedding planning started, and so did the real issues. We were picking out venues, and he casually mentioned, "Rebecca would have loved this place." I laughed it off, but my chest tightened. At the florist, he pointed to the roses and said, "These were Rebecca's favorite flowers." He said it so fondly, as if he was reminiscing about a lost love. I felt invisible standing there next to him. I wanted to tell him how much it hurt, but I didn't want to seem petty or jealous.
It wasn't just him, though. His friends and family talked about Rebecca like she was still part of their lives. His mum once called me Rebecca by accident, and then laughed it off, saying, "Oh, you two are just so similar." It stung, but I smiled through it. I tried to convince myself that I was being paranoid.
Then one day while I was tidying up, I found a letter in his desk drawer. It wasn't addressed to me. It was a letter he'd written to Rebecca but never sent. In it, he poured his heart out, saying how much he still loved her and wished things could have been different. I sat there on the floor, clutching that letter, feeling like I'd been punched in the gut. I didn't confront him about it right away. Instead, I tucked it back where I found it and pretended everything was fine. But inside, something had shattered.
I confided in my best friend, Emily, about the letter and all the comparisons. She told me I was overreacting, that I should be happy because he chose to propose to me, not her. Emily made it seem like I was making a big deal out of nothing, so I tried to let it go. I convinced myself that planning the wedding was just stressful, and once we were married, it would all be okay.
But then Rebecca moved back to town. She messaged Matt, saying she'd love to catch up. He told me about it like it was no big deal, just two old friends reconnecting. My stomach twisted, but I told him to go ahead. He met her for coffee, and when he came back, he seemed distant. He said it was great catching up, but I noticed he was glued to his phone more than usual after that, smiling at messages he wouldn't let me see. I felt like I was losing him. But how could I lose what I never fully had? A few weeks later, I overheard him talking to his best friend on the phone. He said, "I never really got over her, you know." My heart sank. I wanted to storm in and scream, ask him why he even proposed to me if he was still hung up on Rebecca, but I didn't. I bottled it up and pushed forward with the wedding plans, telling myself I was just imagining things.
The final straw came at our engagement party. Matt's mum, after a few too many drinks, stood up to make a toast. She slurred, "To Rebecca, the one that got away, to Matt and Op, of course." The room went silent. I felt everyone's eyes on me, waiting for my reaction. I excused myself and left the party early, tears blurring my vision.
When Matt got home, I told him I was done being second best. He looked shocked, like he had no idea what I was talking about. He insisted I was the one he wanted to marry, but I couldn't do it anymore. I packed a bag and left to stay with Emily, who once again told me I was overreacting. That night, I went through our old photos and messages, and it all became clear. I'd spent 5 years competing with someone who wasn't even in the room. I realized I couldn't marry a man who still had his heart tied to someone else. So I made the hardest decision of my life. I called off the wedding.
Update 1.
So I ended the engagement and walked away from a relationship I'd invested 5 years of my life into. It wasn't an easy decision, but I knew it was the right one. The first thing I had to do was tell my family and friends. I wasn't prepared for the wave of reactions that followed. I called my mom first. She wasn't shocked, which surprised me. She just listened quietly as I explained everything, the comparisons to Rebecca, the letter I found, and the engagement party disaster. When I finished, she simply said, "I'm proud of you for standing up for yourself." Hearing those words felt like the first bit of support I'd had in a long time. It gave me a small boost of courage because I knew what was coming next, telling everyone else. Emily, my best friend, didn't take it well. When I told her the wedding was off, she looked at me like I'd lost my mind. She asked if I was sure, then accused me of sabotaging my own happiness. Matt chose you, she kept insisting like that was all that mattered. I didn't have the energy to argue. I just nodded, knowing she wasn't going to understand. Breaking the news to Matt was the hardest part. I met him at our apartment, well, his apartment now. He was already there, pacing around the living room like he knew something was wrong. When I told him it was over, he looked at me like I'd just punched him in the gut. He pleaded with me, saying I'd misunderstood everything, that he was over Rebecca and only wanted me. He even brought up the wedding plans, saying we could fix it, but it was just pre-wedding stress making me doubt him. But I couldn't unsee that letter, and I couldn't unhear his conversation about never getting over her. I grabbed my bag, told him I was done, and walked out. I thought that would be the end of it, but it wasn't. Not even close.
The next day, a mutual friend reached out, telling me something that made my stomach drop. Apparently, right after I left, Matt called Rebecca. He didn't waste any time. It stung. But it also made me feel like I made the right choice. He hadn't even tried to process what had happened before running back to her. It wasn't long before Rebecca messaged me. Her text was brief, saying she wanted to talk if I was open to it. I was hesitant, but curiosity got the best of me, so I agreed.
Meeting Rebecca was surreal. I expected her to be cold or defensive, but she was the opposite. She seemed genuinely upset that any of this had happened. She told me she had no idea Matt still had feelings for her, and that she had moved on years ago. We sat there for over an hour, talking about everything. She confirmed what I'd suspected: Matt had been holding on to a fantasy, not the real her. She apologized if she'd caused me any pain, even unintentionally. It was strange, but our conversation gave me a sense of closure I didn't expect. Meanwhile, Matt didn't back off. He started showing up at my new place, leaving flowers and notes. One night, he camped outside my building, waiting for me to come home. When I got out of my car, he rushed over, looking like he hadn't slept in days. He kept saying he didn't realize how much he'd hurt me, that he was sorry and wanted to make things right. It was hard seeing him like that, but I had nothing left to give. I told him it was too late, and he needed to move on.
The breakup quickly became the talk of our friend group. Some people sided with Matt, saying I was being dramatic and throwing away a good thing over jealousy. But others finally admitted they'd noticed the way he used to bring up Rebecca all the time, even in front of me. It was validating in a way, but also isolating. I couldn't help but wonder why no one had said anything before.
I realized I needed to work through this mess on my own, so I started seeing a therapist. She didn't sugarcoat anything. In our first session, she pointed out how I'd been minimizing my own needs for years. I'd bent over backward trying to prove I was good enough, all while ignoring the obvious signs that I was just a placeholder for someone else. It was hard to hear, but it was the wake-up call I needed. I decided it was time for a fresh start. I found a new apartment across town, packed up my things, and moved out without looking back. For the first time in a long time, I was focusing on myself. It felt good, strange, but good. Matt still texted me occasionally, but I ignored him. I needed space to heal.
Then, one day I got a message from Rebecca. It was brief, and to the point. I hope you're doing okay. I just wanted to say thank you for being so understanding. I wish you all the best. I felt an unexpected wave of relief wash over me. It wasn't about her. It never was. It was about Matt and his inability to let go of the past.
With some time in therapy, I started dating casually again. Nothing serious, just a few fun nights out. It was refreshing to meet people without any comparisons hanging over me. I started rediscovering old hobbies I'd given up, like painting and hiking. I even landed a new job that I actually enjoy. It feels like I'm finally putting myself first. Matt's last attempt at contact came in the form of a letter. It was long, filled with apologies and admissions. He finally acknowledged that he had never truly let go of Rebecca, and that he unintentionally made me feel like second best. He wished me happiness and said he hoped I found someone who would put me first. For the first time, I felt at peace. I didn't need his validation anymore. I decided to share my story here, hoping it might help someone else going through something similar. The response has been overwhelming, and it's comforting to know I'm not alone in this. And now, as I move forward, I can finally say, I was always second best, but not anymore. Update 2. After calling off the wedding and moving out of our shared apartment, I signed a lease for a new place on the other side of town. It's a small studio, but it's mine. I picked out the furniture, set up a cozy reading nook, and even started decorating with some plants, something Matt always said I'd kill within a week. It feels liberating to have a space that's entirely my own, a blank canvas where I can start over. My mom helped me move in. We were unpacking boxes when I broke down and admitted I was scared. What if I'd made a huge mistake? What if leaving Matt wasn't the right call? She put down the dishes she was holding, sat next to me on the floor, and hugged me. She told me she'd seen how unhappy I was for years, even if I couldn't see it myself. It was the first time I felt like someone truly understood what I'd been going through. That conversation gave me a sense of calm I hadn't felt in a while. But just when I thought I was finding my footing, Emily reached out. We hadn't spoken since I told her about the breakup. She texted, asking if we could meet up. I was hesitant, but agreed. We met at our usual coffee spot, and it was awkward. She looked uncomfortable, fidgeting with her cup before finally apologizing. She admitted she hadn't supported me during the breakup because she'd never seen Matt so upset before. She assumed I was being irrational, and that I'd regret it. It was hard to hear, but I appreciated her honesty. Still, Something between us felt different, like a crack in our friendship that wouldn't easily heal. Not long after, I started getting messages from mutual friends about Matt's social media activity. He'd been posting a series of cryptic quotes, things like, "You never know what you have until it's gone," and "Love isn't always enough." It was obvious he was fishing for sympathy. Then he took it a step further, posting a picture of our engagement ring with the caption, "The one that got away." It felt manipulative, and I hated that he was using our breakup to gain attention. I sent him a text, telling him to stop, but the posts didn't end. In the midst of all this, I decided to try dating again. I wasn't looking for anything serious, but I figured it was time to put myself out there. I met a guy named Ryan through a dating app. He was different from Matt in every way, laid back, funny, and genuinely interested in getting to know me without any weird comparisons. We went out for drinks, and it was the first time in years I felt at ease on a date. There was no pressure, no shadow of an ex hanging over us. I actually had fun. A few days later, I got a letter in the mail. It was from Matt's mom. She'd always been kind to me, but I hadn't expected this. It was a handwritten apology for the toast she made at our engagement party, the one where she accidentally called me Rebecca and said Rebecca was the one that got away. She said she didn't realize how hurtful her words were, and that she truly liked me, even if it didn't always seem that way. I was surprised, but it felt like a tiny bit of closure. I wrote back, thanking her for the letter and saying I hoped we could still be cordial despite everything. A few weeks later, I ran into Matt at the grocery store. It was the first time I'd seen him face to face since the breakup. He looked rough, like he hadn't been sleeping. He approached me in the produce aisle, trying to make small talk about avocados of all things. Then, his voice cracked and he admitted he was lost without me. He said he didn't realize how much he'd taken me for granted until I left. I listened quietly but kept my distance. I told him I was moving on, and that he needed to do the same. It was hard, but I walked away feeling stronger than I ever had before. Just when I thought things had settled, I got another message from Rebecca. This time she asked if we could meet for coffee. I hesitated, wondering what more she could possibly have to say, but curiosity got the better of me. We met up, and to my surprise, she apologized again. She explained that she never wanted to come between Matt and me and that she's in a happy relationship now. It wasn't about her, it was about Matt holding on to something that wasn't real anymore. We ended on good terms, with her telling me she hoped I'd live my life fully and not look back. It was oddly comforting. I started attending a women's support group that my therapist recommended. It's been eye-opening, hearing stories from other women who've gone through similar experiences. I made a new friend, Tara, who recently went through a messy divorce. We bonded over our shared feelings of inadequacy and have become each other's cheerleaders. It's nice to have someone who gets it. One afternoon, I bumped into Ryan again at a bookstore. We chatted for a bit, and he asked me out on a second date. This time, I felt excited instead of anxious. The date went well, and Ryan was upfront about wanting something serious but was willing to take things slow. It was refreshing. During one of my therapy sessions, I had a realization I'd spent years being haunted by the idea of being second best. My therapist asked me to write a letter to my past self, the version of me that stayed with Matt despite all the red flags. I poured my heart into it, writing about how proud I am for choosing my own happiness. Matt sent me one final message. It was long and heartfelt, admitting he'd been selfish and blind to my feelings. He apologized for everything and said he hoped I'd find someone who puts me first. I didn't respond, but I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. Now, I'm looking forward to my next date with Ryan. For the first time in a long time, I'm excited about the future. I don't know what's next, but I'm finally in a place where I'm ready to find out. Update 3. I've been in my new apartment for a couple of months now, and it finally feels like home. It's a small space, but it's cozy and filled with things I love. I even started a new hobby, pottery. It's messy and I'm terrible at it, but I love it. There's something soothing about getting my hands dirty and creating something from scratch. It's the first time I've done something entirely for myself, and it feels like a step toward reclaiming who I am outside of a relationship. Things with Ryan have been going well, better than I expected. We've gone on several dates, and each time I'm surprised by how easy it feels. He's thoughtful in a way I'm not used to. He remembers little things I say, like my favorite kind of tea, or how I love rainy days. During a movie night at his place, he turned to me and said, "I'm really happy I met you." It caught me off guard because it wasn't just a line, it felt genuine. For the first time in years, I felt like someone was seeing me for who I am, without any comparisons or shadows from the past. Then, out of nowhere, I received an email that threw me off balance. It was from a company I interviewed with over a year ago. They had kept my resume on file and now had a position they thought I'd be perfect for. The job was a significant promotion with a hefty pay raise, but there was a catch. It required relocating to a different city. I felt a mix of excitement and fear. I've just started building a new life here, and now this opportunity was dangling in front of me, tempting me to take another leap. I brought up the job offer during my next therapy session. My therapist asked me what I really wanted, and that question hit me harder than I expected. I realized I'd been avoiding big decisions ever since the breakup. It's like I was afraid to make another wrong choice. To clear my head, I decided to take a solo day trip. I packed a small bag, filled a thermos with coffee, and drove out to a nature trail I used to love. Walking alone in the quiet, with just the sound of leaves crunching under my boots, felt empowering. I hadn't done something like this for myself in years. While hiking, I ran into Emily. It was completely unexpected and a bit awkward at first. We hadn't seen each other since our strained coffee meetup after the breakup. We decided to walk together, and slowly, the conversation started flowing. Emily admitted she hadn't been a good friend to me. She said she was projecting her own relationship issues onto mine and envied what she thought was stability between Matt and me. It was eye-opening. I told her I forgave her, but I was clear that things couldn't go back to the way they were overnight. She nodded, and for the first time, it felt like we were on the same page. A few days later, I heard from a mutual friend that Matt had started dating someone new. Her name is Jessica, and according to my friend, she looks a lot like Rebecca. At first, I felt a twinge of something. Maybe it was jealousy, or maybe just a reminder of how much time I'd wasted. But that feeling faded quickly. It's clear Matt hasn't changed. He's still stuck in the same patterns, chasing after women who remind him of his past. I decided not to reach out or comment on it. It's not my business anymore, and knowing that gave me a sense of relief. One evening, Ryan and I were sitting on my couch, sharing takeout and talking about everything and nothing. I felt a wave of vulnerability wash over me, and before I could stop myself, I started opening up about my past with Matt. I told him about Rebecca, the constant comparisons, and how I spent years feeling like I wasn't enough. He listened without interrupting, his expression soft but serious. When I finished, he took my hand and said, "I'm sorry you went through that. You deserve so much better, and I'm glad you finally see it too." It was a simple moment, but it felt monumental. For the first time, I wasn't just moving on, I was healing. The job offer was still weighing on my mind, so I had a long talk with my mom. She encouraged me to take it, saying she'd watched me put myself second for far too long. She told me it was time I made a choice that was entirely for me. I also talked it over with Ryan. He was supportive, even suggesting we could try long distance if it came to that. His reaction surprised me. He didn't try to hold me back or make me feel guilty. He just wanted what was best for me, and that kind of support was new to me. Just as I was about to make my decision, I got an unexpected letter in the mail. It was from Rebecca. She thanked me for meeting with her and wrote that she'd been reflecting a lot since then. She admitted that she'd held onto the idea of Matt as her what if for a long time, and meeting me made her realize she'd been romanticizing the past. She wrote that it was never about being better or worse. Matt was the one who couldn't let go, not me. She ended the letter by wishing me happiness and thanking me for being brave enough to walk away. Reading that letter felt like the final piece of the puzzle. I realized I'd been looking for validation I didn't need. I wasn't second best anymore, I was my own first choice. With that clarity, I accepted the job offer. It's time for a new chapter, one where I'm truly in control of my own story. I'll be moving in a month, and I'm planning a big goodbye party with my new friends. Ryan is coming too, and I have a feeling there's more to our story than just a casual relationship. But that's a tale for another time. For now, I'm focused on the future, and for the first time in a long time, I'm excited about what's next. Update 4. Packing up my apartment was more emotional than I expected. Each item I put away felt like closing a chapter of my life, and the memories came flooding back. I found old photos of Matt and me, smiling at the beach, celebrating holidays, looking happy. I didn't feel sad though. Instead, it felt like I was letting go of the weight I'd been carrying for years. I packed up the photos in a box, deciding to drop them off at a thrift store later. They're part of my past, but they don't define my future. My mom came over to help with the last of the packing. As we wrapped up the dishes, she finally opened up. She admitted she'd been worried about me for a long time, seeing how hard I was trying to make things work with Matt when it was clear I wasn't truly happy. She said she didn't want to interfere but was relieved that I'd chosen myself this time. Hearing her say that made me realize how much I'd been holding back. I hugged her tightly, grateful for her support. I decided to throw a small goodbye party at my favorite local bar. It was a mix of old friends and new ones, a way to say a proper goodbye to this chapter of my life. Ryan arrived early to help me set up. He brought a bouquet of tulips, my favorite. We shared a quiet moment before the guests arrived, standing side by side at the bar. He told me he was going to miss me but knew this move was what I needed. It was comforting to know he supported me, even though it meant we'd be apart for a while. As the night went on, the bar filled with laughter and clinking glasses. My friends from the support group showed up, and we toasted to new beginnings. They called me an inspiration, which felt surreal because I still feel like I'm figuring things out. But for the first time, I felt genuinely seen and supported by the people around me. Then, towards the end of the night, I spotted Matt walking in. I wasn't expecting him. He looked nervous, scanning the room before making his way over to me. It was like time slowed down for a moment. He asked if we could step outside and talk. I agreed, more out of curiosity than anything else. We stood on the sidewalk under the dim streetlights. Matt looked different, tired, more subdued, like he'd finally realized what he'd lost. He started by apologizing again, but this time it felt different. He admitted he'd been selfish and that he took me for granted. He said he'd been going to therapy and realized he was never truly over Rebecca, but that didn't excuse the way he treated me. It was the first time I'd seen real sincerity in his eyes. I listened quietly, then told him it was too late. I'd already moved on, and while I appreciated his honesty, I wasn't looking for closure from him anymore. I'd found it within myself. After our conversation, I headed back inside, feeling lighter. Ryan noticed I looked emotional and pulled me aside. Without hesitation, he took my hand in front of everyone, told me he had something he needed to say. He admitted he was falling for me and didn't want to lose what we had. He said he was willing to try long distance if I was. I was stunned. I didn't expect it, especially since we'd only been dating for a few months. I didn't give him an answer right away, but I hugged him tightly, touched by his sincerity. Emily pulled me aside as well. She congratulated me on the move and told me she was proud of everything I'd accomplished. She admitted she wished she'd been a better friend during the breakup with Matt. I told her I forgave her, but I was clear about needing boundaries. I need friends who truly support me moving forward. Emily looked sad but nodded, understanding that this was part of my growth. It felt like a necessary step in healing our friendship. As the party wound down, my friends surprised me with a gift. It was a scrapbook filled with photos and messages from everyone I'd met since the breakup. There were notes from my support group, my new coworkers, and even people I'd met at pottery classes. I was overwhelmed with emotion. It was a reminder that I'd built a new life filled with people who cared about me for who I am, not because I was someone's backup plan. The next morning, moving day arrived. Ryan showed up early to help me load the moving truck. He handed me a travel mug with a quote from one of my favorite books for the journey ahead. We shared a long hug, and I promised to keep in touch. As I drove away, blasting my favorite songs, I felt a mix of excitement and fear. It's the first time in years I've done something entirely for myself. My new apartment is small but bright, with lots of natural light. I set up my pottery station by the window and took a deep breath. This is my space, my choice. On my first day at the new job, my coworkers took me out for lunch. They were warm and welcoming, making me feel like I belonged from day one. A few weeks later, Ryan and I had a long phone call. We talked about everything: our feelings, the distance, and what we wanted for the future. I admitted I was scared, but I told him I wanted to give it a shot. We agreed to take things slow, but we're both committed to making it work. For the first time in years, I felt hopeful about a relationship. Just when I thought I'd closed every chapter, I received one last message from Rebecca. It was short, just a note saying she'd seen my move announcement on social media and wanted to wish me well. She told me I deserve all the happiness in the world. I smiled and sent a brief reply, thanking her. It felt like the final piece of closure I didn't even know I needed. I want to thank everyone here on Reddit for the support and encouragement throughout my journey. When I first shared my story, I was terrified, but your responses gave me strength. I was always second best, but now I'm my own first choice. I might have exciting news about my relationship with Ryan soon, but I want to keep it private for now. I promise I'll be back if there's anything major to share. For now, I'm focused on living my best life and embracing every new opportunity that comes my way. Update 5. It's been 6 months since my last update, and I can't believe how much has changed. First, I want to thank everyone for the overwhelming support. Your comments and messages kept me going when I felt uncertain about the choices I made. I'm happy to say I feel like a completely different person now. My new city feels like home, and I'm ready to share what's been happening since I moved. The new job has been a game changer. From day one, I felt valued in a way I never did before. My manager assigned me to a big project right away, which was challenging but exciting. I've even joined the company's running club, something I never thought I'd enjoy, but it's been a great way to meet people and stay active. Just last month, I gave a presentation that went so well, my manager pulled me aside afterward to tell me I'm on track for a promotion. It's validation I didn't know I needed, proving that leaving my old life behind was the right move. As for Ryan and me, we decided to give long distance a try, and honestly, it's been going better than I ever expected. We text every day, have video calls once a week, and we even have virtual movie nights where we sync up a film and watch together while chatting on the phone. It's not the same as being together in person, but it's working. Ryan visited a few weeks after I moved, and it was an incredible weekend. We explored the city, tried new restaurants, and he even met some of my new friends. It felt like a test for our relationship, and we passed with flying colors. During Ryan's visit, he brought up something that caught me off guard. He mentioned that he's been thinking about a job transfer that would bring him to my city. He wants to be closer, and he's willing to make the move for us. I was shocked but thrilled. It's a big step, and we haven't made any final decisions yet, but we've started seriously discussing what our life together might look like. It's the first time I feel like I'm building a relationship based on mutual respect and genuine love, without the comparisons or doubts that clouded my past. Then, out of the blue, I got an email from Matt. It was long, introspective, and much different from his previous messages. He told me he's been in therapy consistently since our breakup, and that he's realized a lot about himself. He admitted he used me as a placeholder while he struggled with unresolved feelings for Rebecca. He apologized for making me feel like second best and acknowledged that I deserved so much better. Reading his email, I felt a strange sense of peace. I didn't feel the need to respond, I've already moved on. But I appreciated that he took responsibility for his actions. It felt like the final piece of closure I didn't even realize I needed. Not long after, I received a small package in the mail. It was from Rebecca. Inside was a book about healing and self-love, with a note that read, "For the journey you've already started. I hope it continues to be a beautiful one, Rebecca." I was touched. It's clear that she's done a lot of reflecting too, and there's no bitterness or awkwardness left between us. We were never friends, but we've both moved on in a healthy way, and I smiled, realizing how far I've come. Just when I thought things couldn't get better, my manager offered me a promotion. It's a role I've been eyeing since I started, with more responsibilities and a significant pay raise. It was an easy decision to accept. I felt proud of myself. It was a moment of validation, proof that I made all the right choices, even when they were hard. To celebrate, Ryan and I decided to take a weekend trip together. We rented a cozy cabin in the mountains, away from all the distractions. We spent our days hiking and our nights by the fire, talking about everything. On the last night, Ryan surprised me. He took my hand and with a serious look asked, "Will you move in with me once I get here?" It wasn't a marriage proposal, but it felt just as significant. He wants to build a life with me, and he's taking the next step. I didn't hesitate. I said yes. I felt a rush of emotions, relief, excitement, and most importantly, love. It's the first time I've been someone's true first choice, and it feels incredible. I've been journaling a lot lately, reflecting on everything I've been through. I look back at my old posts, and it's like I'm reading about a different person. The self-doubt, the insecurity, it's still there sometimes, but I've learned to silence those voices. I've stopped seeking validation from others because I've finally found it within myself. Before I end this update, I want to thank everyone who followed my journey. When I first shared my story, I was terrified, but the support I received here helped me through some of my darkest moments. Your kind words, your tough love, your encouragement, it all meant more than you'll ever know. If my experience helped even one person realize they deserve better, it was worth sharing. As for what's next, I don't know, but for the first time, I'm excited to find out. I'm starting a new life with someone who loves me fully, and I'm no longer looking back. Ryan and I are making plans for our future, and it feels like everything is finally falling into place. To wrap things up, here's a photo from our weekend trip, Ryan and me, smiling by the fire, looking truly happy. It's a simple but powerful image, and it says more than words ever could. I might share another update down the line if there's big news, maybe even a proposal someday. But for now, I'm logging off to enjoy my new life and all the possibilities ahead. Thank you all, truly, from the bottom of my heart.